Hello everyone, my name is Gavin, and this will be a video on how to have an enemy track to your player, but if there's an obstacle in the enemy's way, it'll just shoot and get rid of it, so it'll pretty much destroy the object that's in its way. Alright, I'm just going to get started. So let's right click on the light and hit X delete, and right click on the camera and hit X delete, and right click on this cube in the middle, and let's do spacebar and then add an empty object, and let's drag this empty object in front of our cube on the Y-axis. Hit S to scale it down, and with our empty object selected, let's do Shift and right click and do Control P like this and set the parent to the object. Alright, so if we drag the object around, the empty will follow. Okay, let's right click on this object right here and rename it to enemy. Okay, and what we are going to do is have it. So we're going to go from defaults to game logic and go from Blender render to Blender game. And let's right click on our cube right here and add an always sensor and add a ray sensor. This ray will look like this. Just rename it as ray all lowercase. Let's have it so it encounters the property box within the range of, let's say, 20 like this, and minimize this. Let's add a Python controller like this. And what we're going to do now is for our enemy, let's add an edit object actuator. Change it from add object to track to. And I'll just put player like this. Minimize this. And let's add a motion actuator with the movement being 0.2. Okay. Now that we got this, connect these both to our always sensor like this. Okay, we haven't created our player object though, so we're not going to be done just yet with this track to one. But what we're going to do is shift and right click on our empty object. And let's add an edit object actuator. This actuator will be called shoot. And for a time of, let's say, 50, we're going to have it so it's going to add a bullet into the game, and let's connect that to our Python controller. Okay. Now that we have that, let's go into layer 2 by clicking right here and do spacebar and then add a surface sphere. Convert it to a mesh by hitting the Alt button and C and convert to mesh. Drag this panel out, hit new right here, and change the color to red for our bullets. And actually, let's make this bullet a character, an actor, and yep, that'll work. So if we hit P, our bullet should just fall like that. And I'll rename this from surface sphere to bullets. Bullet with 2 L's, my apologies. And what we're going to do is have this bullet move forward fairly quickly. So add an always sensor with those first 3 dots selected. And add a motion actuator. And let's have 0.5 like this. So our bullets should move like this. Fairly forward like that, and like that. I'll actually scale it down just a hair, so if we hit P, it'll move forward like that. Okay, let's now go back into our initial layer, and right-click on our empty object. And where it says shoot, let's put the bullet property in here. Okay. Now, let's right-click on our enemy again, and I'll just change the coloring of our enemy to, let's say, red as well. And I'll actually drag this empty object down just a little bit. And I'll scale it down just a little bit because we don't want it to interfere with our ray sensor. So just imagine that this green line is the ray sensor right here. If your cube is still in the origin. So our ray sensor is just going above our empty object, and that's why we want this right here. Okay. Now that we have this, what we're going to do is do spacebar and then add a cube. This cube will be our box property. So right click this, add character physics. Let's add the property box to it. So this is going to be the obstacle in our enemy's way. Add a new material. Let's make this yellow. Actually, let me go back into layer 2 really quick. Right click on your bullet in layer 2. And let's add bullets as the main property. So bullet is the property on our bullets. And let's have it so that if our box collides with a bullet, So collision right here with the property bullets with tap selected. We're just going to have it delete this object. So edit object actuator and then end object like this, and delete the portion, or and connect the portion right here. So now that we have this, let's add a floor into our game by doing spacebar and then add a plane. I'll drag this plane down, and I'll do S and 10, and I'll scale it up just a little bit more. So we should just have our cube moving forward like that. Actually, our enemy object needs character physics. So let's apply character physics to our enemy by clicking this and click actor. So physics tab, character, actor. Okay, now that we have this, let's do spacebar and then add a cube, and this cube will represent our player. So right click on the orange cube and rename this cube to player. Drag this panel up, and let's make our player blue. Okay. Now that our player is blue, let's add character physics and actor like this, and drag this down. So we should have all of our stuff fall down like this. And let's right click on this enemy object and now make it so that it's going to track to our player. Player like this. Okay, so our cube should be turning this way now. Alright, now that we have this, let's now, that was a lot of logic bricks, I apologize. Let's now add a Python script for our enemy. So let's do templates Python and then game logic simple. And let's rename this as scripts.py. And let's define, and let's actually just drag that onto our enemy like this. And let's define our array sensor. So array is going to equal controller.sensors array. Hit control and scroll up actually to make your text larger. So array is going to equal controller.sensors array. And then shoot is going to equal controller.actuators shoot. And what we're just going to have is actually, I'll make the frequency 10. We're just going to have if array.positive. We're going to do controller.activate shoot. And if our array is not positive, we're going to have const.deactivate shoot. So what should happen is if I right click on this yellow cube and put it in between our player, it's going to start shooting as it's trying to go towards our player. So if I drag this guy back and I just make a copy of a few cubes like this, he's going to be shooting as he's trying to reach our player. Alright, that is how you make an enemy destroy obstacles. I hope you guys found this useful. I will go over the logic brick scripting since it was a little bit different. So our enemy object needs an array sensor and an always sensor. Both of those are going to be connected to a Python controller. You're going to take your always sensor and connect that to an edit object actuator and a motion actuator without Python, I guess. Or yeah, without the Python controller, sorry. Then you need to connect your Python controller to an edit object actuator on your empty, like this. You need to make a bullet in your alternate layer or your second layer. Right click on your cube in the middle. Then what you need is you need to have a collision actuator on your obstacle. In this case it was the yellow cube. And if the bullet collides with the obstacle, it's going to delete the obstacle, as you see here. For your script, what you need is just the array sensor and the shoot actuator. And if your array is hitting an object, just have it shoot, and if it's not hitting an object, just have it stop shooting. Okay guys, I hope you found this useful.